In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, July 19th, here in South Korea. Authorities resume loudspeaker broadcasts across the border into North Korea in retaliation against the latter's refloating of waste-carrying balloons into the southern part of the peninsula. Meanwhile, torrential rain in the capital region on Thursday leads to evacuation orders, flight cancellations, train delays, as well as road closures. And while the Greater Seoul area is seeing a break from the downpours today, the southern parts of the country remain under heavily wet conditions. And over in the U.S., former President Donald Trump addresses members of the Republican National Convention as it comes to a close on Thursday local time in his nomination acceptance speech following an assassination attempt this past weekend. We start over in the U.S., where presidential candidate Donald Trump formally accepted the Republican Party's nomination and addressed at length an earlier attempt on his life. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo starts us off.
The former U.S. President Donald Trump took the stage at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Thursday evening local time, accepting the party's official nomination to run for president. In his keynote speech, Trump said he will deliver a government that serves the American people. He also gave a detailed recount of the assassination attempt at a rally on Saturday. This was Trump's first speech since that rally. Previously on Sunday, Trump told the Washington Examiner newspaper that he decided to rewrite his speech following the assassination attempt and that he'll share a message of unity instead of making attacks on Joe Biden, the current U.S. president and the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. Before Trump went on stage, many of his supporters delivered their own speeches, including his son Eric Trump and the wrestler Hulk Hogan. Meanwhile, according to U.S. media reports, leading Democrats have privately pushed Biden to drop out of the election race. The Associated Press and the Washington Post reported that former U.S. President Barack Obama has privately expressed concerns to Democrats about the viability of Biden's candidacy. Senator John Hickenlooper told Reuters on Wednesday that Biden is working towards a decision on whether to stay in the presidential race that is good for the country. But other Democrats continue to support Biden in his contest against Trump, with Vice President Kamala Harris saying unity does not involve, quote, an agenda that deprives whole groups of Americans of basic freedoms, opportunity, and dignity. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Here on the local front, South Korea has resumed its loudspeaker broadcasts in retaliation against North Korea's refloating of waste-carrying balloons across the border. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil has details.
The South Korean military has strongly criticized the North's balloon provocations. On Friday morning, the military released a statement saying despite repeated warnings, the North has yet again sent another round of balloons carrying paper trash from Thursday afternoon until early Friday. The military called the act low and disgraceful actions, which come despite severe rain damage affecting residents in both Koreas. The South's military also resumed a loudspeaker broadcast from Thursday night in response to a fresh round of balloons found in northern Gyeonggi-do Province. Most carry paper trash, posing no threat, the military added. The broadcasts, which can reach 30 kilometers in distance, were put on towards where the balloons came from. The content includes ideas that the North's regime is especially sensitive about, including criticizing the ruling Kim family and promoting capitalism. Pyongyang's balloon provocation continues amid a previous warning by the North Korean leader's powerful sister, Kim Yo-jong, earlier this week. She says South Korean leaflets were found in the North and vowed to retaliate. Civic groups, mainly consisting of North Korean defectors organizations, have been sending leaflets to the North, as since last year, the South Korean government has not tried to prevent the distribution of leaflets.
We're approaching the issue of distributing leaflets in consideration of the Constitutional Court's decision ensuring freedom of expression. The government maintains close collaboration with relevant agencies and is committed to managing the situation effectively.
Some experts say, though, that Seoul may need to reevaluate the situation.
There's a need for the government to reevaluate the situation of condoning the distribution of leaflets by some North Korean defectors organizations to protect the lives and safety of the border residents and also to ease tensions on the Korean peninsula.
김정실, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, a delegation of Russian defense officials are in North Korea. And according to the regime state media on this Friday, Russia's Deputy Defense Minister Alexei Krivorushko met with Kim Jong-un at the headquarters of the Workers' Party of Korea earlier on Thursday. They reportedly acknowledged the need for military cooperation between the two countries to protect mutual security interests. This latest visit also marks the first time a high-ranking Russian defense official has visited North Korea since Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit last month. President Yoon Suk-yeol has pledged to promote advanced technologies and cultural initiatives in Jeollabuk-do Province during his latest public policy forum. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon covers his remarks.
Advanced technology, life, and culture. These are the key words that President Yoon Suk-yeol presented to Jeollabuk-do Province as part of his vision to push the region. This came as he hosted the 27th Public Policy Dialogue there.
전북이 공들여서 육성하려고 하고 있는 2차 전지와 바이오 등 첨단 산업에 대한 기대도 그 어느 때보다 큽니다. 또 우리 전통 문화의 본산인 전북이 문화산업의 새로운 거점이 될 것입니다.
Among the many pledges he made, first, he said the region needs to be the country's advanced technology bridgehead. To do this, the government will invest 250 billion Korean won, or around $180 by 2030, to create a hydrogen-specialized national industrial complex. By 2026, the infrastructure will be expanded to establish an innovative ecosystem for hydrogen commercial vehicles. As for life, the president is focusing on the region's strength in the agricultural industry. He pledged he would support young entrepreneurs and smart farms to relocate into the region. As for culture, on top of culture content support centers, he pledged to invest around $29 million to create a youth sports complex to foster national athletes. He also pledged that any regulations that hinder growth will be scrapped, as he ordered government officials to not think twice before making decisions when it comes to this.
성장을 방해하고 경제 활동, 자유로운 경제 활동을 불필요하게 제한하는 게 있으면은 즉시 폐지해 주기 바랍니다. 우리 여기 공무원들도 많이 오셨는데 그거를 뭐 검토하고 다른 부처하고 협의하고 그러기 전에 이거는 불필요하다 하면은 즉시 다른 부처에 또 유사한 게 있으면 같이 폐지하는 식으로 이렇게 해서.
This was his first time going to the region since he started the policy dialogues. He shared his personal experiences with the city, naming a couple of restaurants that he used to like. He also said it was tough to reach the region's main city of Jeonju from Gyeonggi Province, requesting relevant government officials to speed up the decision to create a highway connecting the two regions. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
In other news, there's been a fresh vote of confidence in Samsung's home appliances among American consumers. In its 2024 Customer Satisfaction Survey, J.D. Power saw Samsung ranking the highest in 10 out of 11 categories to become the most awarded brand for kitchen and laundry appliances for the second straight year. In fact, Samsung's refrigerators swept the charts across all measured dimensions in a survey of over 15,000 customers. Over in Strasbourg, France, Ursula von der Leyen has secured the reins of the European Commission for a second five-year term. Our Yoon reports.
The European Commission's first female president, Ursula von der Leyen, has been re-elected for a second term in a secret ballot vote at the European Parliament in Strasbourg on Thursday. She took a comfortable majority, winning 401 of the 707 votes that were cast from the current 719-member chamber. She said the next 5 years will define Europe's place in the world for the next 5 decades, and that it will decide whether Europe shapes its own future or lets it be shaped by events or by others.
We are working all together for a strong Europe, We're working on the topics of prosperity and competitiveness in our economy, social fairness because we have a social market economy. We're working on protecting people, so security and defense, but the most important is the overarching topic of strengthening our democracy. Our democracy is under attack from inside and from outside, and therefore it is crucial that the democratic forces stand together to defend our democracy.
Addressing Parliament before the election, von der Leyen vowed to create a true European defence union with flagship projects on air and cyber defence, and to continue to support Europe's green transition. She laid out a program focused on prosperity and security, shaped by the challenges of Russia's war in Ukraine, global economic competition, and climate change. Von der Leyen also promised tighter EU border controls and stronger police cooperation against crime. But it won't be until October at the earliest that a new EU Commission will be ready to propose new laws and change existing ones. In the coming weeks, von der Leyen will propose her team of commissioners coming from each of the 27 EU member states. National governments are expected to put forward their candidates by early August, which will begin the months of hearings and the questioning of nominees for conflicts of interest, as the full College of Commissioners then need to be endorsed by Parliament. 이은진, Arirang News.
The Greater Seoul area is seeing a halt in torrential rain, while the southern parts of the country are being battered yet again. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
Monsoon rain continues here in Korea on Friday, with heavy rain forecast to hit the southern regions of the peninsula. The southwestern city of Gwangju and the Jeollabuk-do regions will see heavy rain of around 30 millimeters per hour until the afternoon, while southeastern cities like Busan and Ulsan will also see similar rainfall. Gyeonggi-do Province is expected to be hit the hardest with more than 100 millimeters of accumulated rain throughout the day. However, most parts of the country are forecast to get a break from the recent heavy rainfall until the afternoon. Meanwhile, as of 5 a.m. Friday, the main transportation network in the northern Gyeonggi region, which had been paralyzed after the torrential rain earlier in the week, is operating normally. The Dongbu Expressway linking Seoul to Gyeonggi opened after a 15-hour shutdown due to a rise in water levels in a nearby stream. The region's railways, including the Gyeongwon Line, Gyeonggi Line, and the Gyeongcheon Line, which had been suspended, also resumed operation from 5:40 p.m. Thursday. The northern and southern areas of Gyeonggi-do Province were among the hardest hit regions on Thursday, with Pyeongtaek, located 60 kilometers south of Seoul, recording hourly rainfall of 88.5 millimeters at one point in the morning. Paju in northern Gyeonggi-do reported accumulated rain of over 633 millimeters from Tuesday to late Thursday morning, with many people forced to evacuate from their homes. The government said as of 5 a.m. Thursday, a total of 887 residents from 8 cities and provinces across the country had been evacuated in the aftermath of the latest downpours. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And in sports news, Korea's table tennis team is looking to turn the tide at the Paris Olympics by restoring its earlier glory. Our Choi Soo-young explains.
Table tennis was first included as an official event at the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Since then, South Korea has won a total of 18 Olympic medals, including 3 golds, ranking second overall in Olympic table tennis history. However, after a golden era in the late 1990s and early 2000s, South Korea's performance declined in the 2010s, falling behind countries including China, Japan, and Germany. Even in the 2016 Rio and 2020 Tokyo Olympics, South Korea didn't claim any medals. But after the Tokyo Olympics, their competitiveness sharply improved through a newly launched professional table tennis league here. In results, at the Hangzhou Asian Games last year, the team won a total of 8 medals. Jeon Ji-hee, the oldest of the women's team and the Hangzhou Games women's doubles champion with her partner Shin Yu-bin, is competing in a 3rd Olympics in Paris. She became a South Korean citizen in 2011 after moving from China and is determined to give her everything in what will be her last Olympics.
After Tokyo, this Paris Olympics feels very close since it's being held just 3 years later. I will work hard to make up for the disappointment from Tokyo.
The team's morale is better than ever. Shin Yubin, who will compete in the women's team event and mixed doubles, has become a key player since her Olympic debut in Tokyo. She and her partner Im Jong-hun aim for gold in the mixed doubles.
My goal is to play without regrets, trusting in the hard training I've put effort into. I'll do my best to show my best performance, so please cheer for us.
In Paris, Chon, Shin, and Lee Eun-hye will compete in the women's events, and Im, Chang Woo-jin, and Cho Dae-sung will compete in the men's events, aiming to win at least 3 medals. New hope is being kindled, starting from the 27th. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
And Korea's Gangwon-do Province is a popular staycation destination among those in the country, especially during the summer. But now efforts are underway to expand its appeal all year round. Our Park Go-nu was there.
Gangwon-do Province in eastern South Korea is one of the country's most popular summer vacation spots, particularly due to its beautiful beaches. According to a survey by data research firm PMI in June, over 70% of Korean respondents planning summer vacations decided on domestic trips, what people call staycations, instead of going overseas due to high costs. The survey also showed that Gangwon-do was the most popular summer vacation destination in South Korea, out of all other domestic travel options.
Gangwon-do is a great place to come as it is really close to Seoul and the transportation is convenient.
I chose Gangwon-do instead of places like Jeju Island because of high costs, and I wanted to enjoy the clean ocean here instead of water parks since I already used those a lot.
All 86 beaches in Gangwon-do are now open for the summer. And by open, this means there will be lifeguards on duty as thousands of people will gather to enjoy themselves by doing fun activities such as surfing and playing in the sea. As of last Sunday, over 420,000 people had visited Gangwon-do beaches this summer, up 44% on year. Starting last Friday, all beaches in Gangwon-do Province are now open, bringing in many tourists. But some point out the need for Gangwon-do to also attract tourists during other seasons as much as they do during the summer.
Most tourism spending in Gangwon-do is usually made during the summer, so Gangwon-do needs to come up with diversified tourism programs and policies that reflect tourist trends, such as marine healing tourism, marine culture and festival tourism, and ecotourism to attract tourists during all 4 seasons.
Gangwon Tourism Organization said they will continue to work on coming up with ways to bring in more tourists during other seasons as well. Park Go-nu, Arirang News, Yangyang.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In Paris, France, a police officer was critically injured in a stabbing attack in the city's Champs-Élysées luxury shopping district on Thursday, becoming the latest casualty in a string of unrelated security incidents ahead of the Paris Olympics. According to Paris Police Chief Laurent Nunez, the attacker was also critically injured, adding that a security guard at a boutique store called the police after spotting a man believed to be carrying a knife. Authorities called on people to avoid the Champs-Élysées, while local media footage showed armed police patrolling the area. France is currently at its highest security alert level ahead of the Games, and Thursday's incident follows a stabbing of a soldier at a Paris rail station on Monday, and the ramming of a car into a terrace of a cafe, also in the capital, on Wednesday. Canada has inaugurated General Jenny Carignan as its Chief of the Defense Staff on Thursday, making her the first woman to command the country's armed forces. After the ceremony at the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa, Carignan said that Canada must prepare for emerging threats, saying that the country has about 5 years to get us close enough to be ready to counter those long-range type of threats. The 56-year-old trained as a military engineer before commanding soldiers in Afghanistan, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Iraq and Syria during her 35 years of service. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who called Carignan a role model for all Canadians and for the world, has been pursuing gender equality policies since taking office in 2015. A baby giant panda at a zoo in South China's Guangdong Province celebrated turning 1 month old on Thursday. Giant panda Meng Meng, the eldest of the world's only living panda triplets, gave birth to a female cub on June 18th at the Chimelong Safari Park. Meng Meng gave birth after 128 days of pregnancy, marking the first panda birth in 5 years in the province's capital, Guangzhou. The baby giant panda has yet to be named but is reportedly in good health, weighing some 1.3 kilograms. Kim Xiang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The monsoonal front that dropped downpours to central regions over the last couple of days has moved south, with rain falling heavily on and off. Rain is forecast to pick up through the afternoon. Jeollabuk-do Province could see more than 100 millimeters today. Gyeonggi also needs to brace for heavy showers. A rain advisory is in place for Jeollabuk-do Province, which should expand to more regions as the day goes on. And the capital area will be under cloudy skies with a chance of light passing rain, and highs should go up through the 4 degrees higher this afternoon, topping out at 31 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Jeju remains under heat alerts, topping out at 34 degrees this afternoon. Now, monsoon rain continues through the weekend and into next week in central areas, but the monsoon season should wrap up next week in southern regions, and searing heat will set in with highs hovering around 35 degrees Celsius. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arirang TV is conducting a quality and satisfaction evaluation to enhance the broadcast service for viewers worldwide. Please visit our website www.arirang.com to provide your honest opinions. Participants will be entered into a draw for a chance to win prizes.
Overseas TV Viewer Survey. We look forward to hearing from you.
We ask global leaders, what fuels your passion? How did you develop the courage to take that leap? What would you say to those who look up to you, the globalists? For those who dream of the world stage, the globalists will share their stories. You're watching the globalists. You're watching Arirang.
우리 이제 각방 써. 각방 쓰자고.
각방마다 클레어 공기청정기. 안방에도 클레어, 거실에도 클레어, 공부방에도 클레어, 아이방에도 클레어. 엠보싱 필터 기술로 다르게 클레어로 각방 쓰자.
나라의 공기청정기. 클레어.
Survey Plus is here and ready to roll to the front of the house. Introducing 16 plus dish capacity to increase efficiency with advanced features like smooth all-floor suspension, ADA ramp navigation, and stable liquid delivery. Your staff can go above and beyond. Survey Plus is a great addition to the team. Multiple table capability and custom tray configurations. Bigger, stronger. Survey Plus.
On Issues and Insiders today, we touch upon the controversies surrounding the coach selection process for Korea's national football team, as well as the latest on the upcoming Paris Olympics as we count down a week to the opening night. Hello and welcome. It's Friday afternoon, July 19th here in South Korea, and you're watching Issues and Insiders. I'm Min Sun-hee. A bitter war of words among those in the football field is unfolding here in Korea following the selection of a new coach for the national team. For details on this and more, I have sportscaster Jason Lee here in the studio. Jason, welcome back.
Thank you.
I also have Yoo Ji-ho at Yonhap News Agency joining us live on the line. Chio, it's good to have you on.
It's great to be here too.
Jason, we'll start here in the studio. So there have been rampant allegations of irregularities regarding the selection process of Hong Myung-bo as the national football team's coach. What can you share with us about the controversy thus far?
Yeah, this has been quite interesting. So Jurgen Klinsmann was the former head coach of the national football team. Of course, he was fired back in February. And searching for the new head coach over the last 5 months has been honestly a big mess. They've ended up hiring Hong Myung-bo, and in the end, I don't think that that's a terrible selection by any means. However, it's the process of how they came to that. It has been just leaving all sorts of messy residue all over the place. Let's start with the resignation of the head of the national team committee, Jung Hae-sung, who quit on June the 28th, and along with him, 3 other members of the committee had resigned. So there's all sorts of questions as to why, one of the people involved in the selection process would suddenly resign. It has not been publicly answered as to why he has left. And then another thing that came out right when Hong Myung-bo was hired literally was Park Ju-ho, another member of the committee that was part of the selection process. He suddenly came out with a YouTube video detailing some of the issues and problems that went on within the KFA and their selection process of the coach. And he was actually in the middle of recording this video when the news struck that Hong Myung-bo was selected as the national team coach. So there's been all sorts of issues when it comes to transparency as the process was taking place. All sorts of issues as to him, Park Ju-ho, being sent all around Europe on a bit of a wild goose chase to many different countries because he was a former soccer player in Germany as well as in Switzerland. So he has a little bit of a pulse on European coaches and stuff like that. So he was sent to talk with all sorts of coaches out there. And in the end, he felt that he wasn't really a part of the process, and almost as if it was a fait accompli as to who the KFA wanted, and that turned out to be Hong Myung-bo. So again, I don't have an issue with the selection of who they hired, but it just seems that the process was not very efficient.
Right, and could have perhaps had more transparency, as you mentioned earlier. Chio, you've been covering this story. What are some of the latest developments?
Yeah, so Hong Myung-bo himself, his appointment was finalized in a vote by the board of directors of the KFA, the Korea Football Association, just over the weekend. And the following day, he left for Europe to interview potential candidates for a couple of assistant coaching positions on his backroom staff. He plans to hire a technical, tactical assistant coach from someone from Europe and another coach, more of a physical trainer from that continent as well. In the meantime, while he's out of the country, the sports ministry and also the ministry runs this Korea Sports Ethics Center have both said they will investigate how the KFA went about selecting this head coach. They're going to kind of look deeper into the process of the vetting process, if you will, whether the KFA honors some of the proper procedures to end up hiring Hong Myung-bo in the first place. So, things could get a little, dicey, a little controversial, even more so going forward. But right now, the KFA is kind of playing, we've got FIFA behind our back kind of card, because if you look at the FIFA statutes, they've got a couple of articles in there that require member associations to operate independently, free from political influence from third parties. Now, whether the ministry's investigation or the ethics center's investigation kind of entail third-party interference, I think that remains to be seen. FIFA has not stated one way or the other. They haven't commented on the Korean situation at the moment. I think they're going to wait and see just how far or how deep the ministry and the ethics center will go with their investigation into this case. So, this thing, Jason touched up on the whole process, and then now with the pending investigation, this is not going to die down anytime soon. So there's a lot of controversy surrounding Hong Myung-bo's tenure, even before he has actually even coached the first match with this team.
Right. Chio, I understand this might be a difficult question, but what do you suppose is the main cause behind such controversy involving the Korea Football Association?
Yeah, with this KFA, Jason mentioned the word transparency, and there's just a staggering lack of transparency when it comes to, their discussions of the whole process. There's so many questions that still have not been answered by the KFA or even Hong Myung-bo himself. He was hired, the appointment was announced on the 7th of July, and Hong Myung-bo apparently accepted the offer from the KFA the previous night. But if you go back if you go another day back, on 5th of July, the Friday, he was still coaching in the K-League with Busan HDFC. And in the pre-match media scrum, he told the reporters that he was not going to meet anybody from the KFA. And he told the fans that, you know what, just don't worry about me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave this club mid-season. And then just a few hours later, after the match ended, he was home, and he was met with the KFA's technical director, Lee Im-sang, who was in charge of the whole selection process. He'd been waiting outside his home for Hong Myung-bo to arrive for a couple of hours. And then they sat down and met for a few hours. And then the following night, Hong Myung-bo somehow decided to coach in the national team. So, you know, what had happened overnight, obviously, you know, I guess on some levels is personal, but they haven't really come out with any sort of plausible explanation of how Hong ended up going from, I'm not going to coach this team, I'm not meeting anybody from the KFA, to within a few hours, you know, getting, you know, taking the job, accepting that offer. So they haven't, you know, again, they haven't had as much transparency, I think, as people would have wanted in terms of explaining the whole process and how things went down. And also, you know, how do you go from interviewing potentially, you know, dozens of international foreign candidates, spending so many hours talking to them, hearing their presentation on what they're going to do with the Korean football? How do you go from that to, you know, sitting down and talking to Hong Myung-bo for about, I don't know, a few hours and then just making him the coach? You know, where's the sort of the vetting process of Hong? You know, how was he not interviewed properly? How was he not asked to maybe do his own presentation on what he wants to do with the national team, when you'd asked all the other candidates to do a lot of the, you know, sort of the presentation on their football philosophy and vision. So, you know, there's also that's also an issue of you know, being fair to all the other candidates compared to Hong Myung-bo, who again somehow ended up getting the job after a few hours of meeting with the kid.
Right, and hence the allegations of a lack of transparency as well then. Jason, as Chio mentioned, Hong Myung-bo is currently in Europe looking for foreign coaches to join his staff. Now, there's been a bit of talk about this particular process as well. Is it not common for coaches to include foreign members within their staff?
I think it definitely is. I think we've seen in past, as an example, when Gus Hiddink was the head coach, or Dick Advocaat, in both cases, Pim Verbeek was among his staff members, Afshin Gotbi as well. So it is normal to see Europeans helping out in the Korean team. I think the difference here is it's Hong Myung-bo as the head coach. So you have a Korean coach that is going to perhaps have some European or foreign coaches underneath him. So that might appear a little bit different, but from a tactical standpoint, I think it makes as much sense as anything. I think having as much outside input into philosophy or just ideas that you might not have thought of if you have an all-Korean staff, I think it's a very wise decision, and hopefully that'll turn out for the best for the Korean team.
Right, hopefully, of course. Chio, Team Korea, it's looking ahead to the third round of the Asian Football Confederation qualifiers starting, I believe, in September. How does this latest controversy perhaps look to affect the players or their play strategy, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's obviously very distracting for the national team. You know, these players, they follow the news. They kind of have the pulse on what's going on the national team, especially some of the mainstays. You know, Captain Son Heung-min and some of the other Europe-based guys. In fact, Hong Myung-bo is actually scheduled to meet with Son in London at some point during his trip or stay in Europe in the coming days. You know, obviously this situation is going to come up in their conversations, and again, it's distracting, and I think it puts a lot of pressure on those players to come through for their coach. He's very, you know, he's been a very unpopular choice. I guess, you know, Hong Myung-bo in a vacuum as a coach, he's not such a bad selection, like Jason said earlier. You know, he had coached the national team before. He won a bronze medal with under 23 national team at the Olympics in London 12 years ago. He had some success at the K-League level, winning a couple of championships in a row with Ulsan. So, if you just look at him as in a vacuum, he's not such a bad selection, but the whole process leading up to his selection has left a lot of people scratching their heads a little bit. And I think it's going to be key for the team to come out and win the first couple of matches and do so in convincing fashion to kind of, silence some of the detractors and some of the critics. And also this could affect, I think, Hong's standing among the players even. Very few players have actually played under him with him before, because it's been close to 10 years since he last coached the senior national team. Very few players are still around since the last time Hong coached the national team back in 2014 with the World Cup. Son Heung-min being one of them. But some of the younger players might not have as much respect for the coach as maybe they should at this point, just because of all the controversies surrounding his selection. So Hong's gonna try hard to, win over some of the players that he hasn't coached in the past. But I think one thing that's working in Korea's favor is that they ended up in a pretty, I shouldn't say easy, but in a relatively easier group compared to maybe a couple of other groups in the third round. They're going to be facing Iraq, Kuwait, Jordan, Oman, and Palestine. Korea they've only got to finish in the top 2 out of the 5 to qualify for the World Cup. So a team of this caliber, barring any stunning upsets, it's going to be hard for Korea not to qualify out of this group. So, but for me, I think they've just got to go out and win a couple of matches in September in a really convincing fashion to kind of help out their coach a little bit.
Right then, apart from winning a few matches, Jason, what do you propose to put things back on track for football here in Korea?
Well, I think, as Gio mentioned, winning actually is the most important thing, because if the team struggles in any sort of a way, even if they have a draw against a team that they shouldn't beat, then people look back on things like this. They'll look back and say, oh, see, it was all this controversy. We hired the wrong person. You make excuses. And it's any time that you have any kind of controversy like this, a scandal, then fingers are pointed. When things are going good, when they're smooth sailing, when you're winning by 2 or 3 goals, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, if you're beating teams that are below you in the rankings, when you're winning on home turf, when you're winning away, then people forget about the controversies. They forget about the stories, and all of a sudden it becomes, well, maybe that was the right decision after all. Maybe that was the right way to go about everything. So you stop second guessing. But if there's any sort of a issue in the win-loss column, that can be an issue. Having said that, I think clearly this might be an example of how things are handled in the future, because it seems like the process that they came to with how Hong was hired, it almost seems that it was like a conservative, approach from the 20 years ago, 40 years ago Korean style of how you do business and make decisions, compared to like the committee of the new people that are part of the committee that are now in their late 30s or 40s. And I think it was a bit of a clash of those people. We have to remember that one of their directors and 3 other members of that committee quit. They resigned. Why would you suddenly do that unless there was some sort of dissension within that group? So perhaps because this is being exposed by the media, because this was on a YouTube gaining 3-4 million views, because people like Park Ji-sung, Lee Yong-pyo, Lee Dong-guk have all given their support to Park Ju-ho in exposing some of the stories that have been going on in his YouTube video, I think there might be something that might provide a little more transparency in the future, and hopefully this will be a one-time event that sort of disappears along with some winning games for Korea.
Right, and talking about games, Chiu, we're counting down a week to the Paris Summer Olympics. What are some of the competitions and who are some of the athletes to keep our eyes on?
Yeah, with Team Korea, I think they've set a rather conservative gold medal target, with trying to win about a handful, about 5 gold medals, finish around top 15 in the medal race. If they do end up with 5 gold medals, they would be the fewest total since 1976 in Montreal. Korea boycotted 80 games in Moscow, competed at the LA Olympics in '84, and pretty much since then they've been able to win a whole bunch of medals, gold medals, and kind of hang around in top 5, top 10. in the medal race. But this time around, I think they're trying to tamper some of the expectations. But I think that some of the medals will most likely come from the usual suspects of sports. Archery, there are 5 gold medals at stake in archery. I think Korea is trying to win 3, maybe even 4 out of the 5. You're looking at shooting and swimming, where medals will come pretty early in the competition. In fact, the day after the opening ceremony next Friday, there will be potentially some swimming medals and shooting medals that will come Korea's way. And also, I think you're looking at sports like fencing, taekwondo, the traditional martial art, judo even. Korea's got a couple of reigning world champions, Kim Min-jong and Hon Mi-mi, in the men's and women's competitions there. So with judo, they weren't able to win any gold medal at each of the past 2 Olympics. I think they're trying to end the drought, the mini drought, if you will, in Paris this time. Even artistic gymnastics. You got an athlete named Yoo Sung-hyun, potentially contending for a medal in the men's floor exercise. He's actually ranked #1 in the World Cup season so far this year. So he's considered a sneaky medal contender in that sport. There's unfortunately on the other hand, Korea has only qualified for 1 team event, 1 team sport, if you will. That will be women's handball. I think the men's football team getting eliminated early in the Olympic qualifiers. There was a pretty shocking development earlier this spring. Didn't qualify in basketball, volleyball, one of the most popular sport in this country. Korea didn't qualify for the Olympics. So there's a bit of a less to look forward to, I think, on the team events, but some of the other niche sports in the Olympics, the kind of things that you would only get to watch every 4 years, I think that Korea is going to be able to win a few medals in those sports.
Right, and staying with the optimism, Jason, some pundits claim that July 29th, and feel free to correct me, July 29th could be Team Korea's day of gold medals. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, I think July 29th, or you could say July 28th, just after midnight. I think they qualify as the same. If you look at the 28th, 29th, 10 past midnight is when the women's team archery event takes place. And this is about as sure of a gold medal as Korea is going to have. In the history of this event, Korea has won the gold medal every single time dating back to 1988. So they're 9 for 9. I don't know if any team or country has dominated a sport as well as Korea has in archery. But the women will try to make it 10 for 10 at just 10 minutes past midnight on the 29th. But that's not the only medal that they're going to have a chance to win. I think also later on in it'll be the wee hours, maybe like 5 a.m. On the morning of the 29th, as mentioned. Korea will have an opportunity for gold perhaps in fencing. Kim Jae-won is a former bronze medalist from the Asian Games in the épée, and he will be among those competing for the medal in fencing there. So hopefully he'll be able to reach the final and perhaps come home with a gold. Also in shooting, women's shooting, Kim Ji-hyun is someone to watch for that they'll be handing out medals later on the day on the 29th as well. So some potential medals there. I think the most obvious one, as mentioned, is the women's archery, but perhaps an opportunity in fencing and shooting as well.
Fingers crossed, right? Gio, beyond Team Korea's prospects, what appears to be some of the pending concerns as we count down to the games?
Yeah, so I think there was a survey done on the French people on their prospects of Paris Olympics. The results, I think the results came out a few days ago, and I think the vast majority of the people are concerned about security. There's going to be a massive crowd from people coming from all over the world. It's descending on the French capital. There's got to be potential threat of a terrorist attacks. Even I think people are concerned about that. They're going to have the opening ceremony along the River Seine, and that's outdoor kind of open space opening ceremony that's never been done before in the Olympics. So I think there's going to be some pretty serious security threat there, and also the weather. The temperature might rise to, I think close to 40 Celsius, although it is a lot drier out there than it is in Korea. I think some people are concerned about the weather conditions as well. And also, I got to mention the water quality. of a river Seine. They're going to have some open water swimming and also a triathlon, the swimming portion of the triathlon at some parts of the river. There's been concerns about water quality, whether it would be safe for the athletes to actually compete in the water of the river. But the French authorities are trying to, I guess, improve the water quality even as we speak. Just a week from now, there will be the opening ceremony. I think the swimming and the triathlon will be a little later on in the competition, so they're going to have a little more time to make sure that the water is going to be safe for the athletes to compete in.
Right. And Jason, going back to the security thing that Gio mentioned, South Korea has dispatched 31 police officers upon the request of the French government as part of efforts to bolster security. Very briefly speaking, is this a common practice?
I think it can be. Perhaps this might be something more for the future of things to come. And it's not just Korea that have been asked to send security personnel. France has actually asked many different allies, I think maybe in the 40s or 50s, of people from other countries. And I think there's a little bit of give and take here because you're getting different people with different languages that can help out in a lot of different ways. So when we look back to the Euro 2024 that just concluded in Germany, France, as an example, sent security forces to help out Germany during their Euro Cup. And in the same way, they've kind of asked them to reciprocal that for the Olympics. And I think when you have security forces from different countries, it's good to have people in different languages that see different things from their own culture that might be suspicious for something to take place. And I think maybe it would seem unpolitical if you were to ask, countries, only certain countries. So by them asking the 40, 50 different countries to send security forces, it kind of seems less assuming as well. But I think it's a good thing. I think for security purposes, it can only benefit. And maybe even for those security people going there, they have an opportunity to spend time in Paris during the Olympics rather than having to stay in their own countries to watch it on TV.
Right, for sure. All right, Jason, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And Gio, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Right, well, on that note, we end this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.